Alrighty, so here we go. It's the annual MLS Hot Seat Index. We always do this every single year before the beginning of the season, looking at all 30 MLS head coach and see exactly where are they in the Hot Seat Index coming into the season. There are some head coach that are definitely feeling the heat heading into this season and could potentially be one of the first one to get fired this upcoming season and are in the hot seat. There are some that definitely could be in the hot seat if things get hit south. And then there's kind of the unpredictable. You can definitely see that they could definitely get far, but at the same time they could potentially be safe. And then of course the fourth tier is that they should be safe at least till the end of the year. That is, no matter what, of course, happened. It seems like most likely they're not going to get fired throughout the season. And then, of course, the fifth tier is that yeah, they're definitely safe. They're definitely going to be not only here till the end of the year, but they'll probably be here for the next couple of years as well. So with that being said, let us begin, and we're gonna go alphabetical order again when it comes to the team as well. And as always, I'm gonna put the initial of the head coach of each of these teams because obviously writing down the names of some of these head coaches is gonna be relatively long, and it's gonna add to the timing of this video. So let's start with Atlanta United, starting with Tata Martino. I'm gonna say here where I think it could definitely go either way. I know that in the past I always talk about Atlanta United head coach kind of being right up here because this team has always have high expectation when it comes to the head coach that they have. But when you look at the last couple of years, it feels like the expectation of this team has really dropped to a point where yeah, I mean they really want to get themselves back to the stage that they have, but it's not like a couple of years ago where there's like high expectation that yeah, this head coach has to do well or else we're gonna fire them. And in the case of bringing an old name in Tata Martino, not only you get the nostalgia kind of reason, but maybe they might give Tata Martino a much longer leash because of what he did back in 2017 and 18, winning the MLS Cup for this team, and hope that maybe he's the guy to really kind of get themselves back to the Atlanta is truly back kind of feeling that they've been saying for the last couple of years, and it just haven't been close whatsoever. And then we go to Nico Estevez for Austin FC. Again, I think this could go either way as well. Again, I think Nico Estevez, while he did pretty well last season for Austin FC, one thing, I think Dallas fans have kind of warned Austin fans about Nico Estevez is the negative style of plays that he has. He's a very defensive kind of head coach. He puts tactics that kind of is a little bit boring to watch, and hence last season, as well as Austin was last season making the playoffs again, it doesn't also hide the fact that they not only were not playing pretty soccer whatsoever, but they were pretty hard to watch going forward on the attacking end. They were among the worst goal scoring team last season. Now, obviously, with some new addition this season at the attacking end, maybe that might change that. But again, I would say that it could definitely go either way, mainly because if Austin fans maybe start getting tired of seeing the same boring kind of style of play. I mean, no teams want to play a boring style of play, unless of course you're getting resort. If you're getting resort, then you can play that boring style of play, and the fans won't complain. And I think that might was the case for Austin fans last season, where at least they got enough reserve, where they're not going to call Nico Estevez has. But if things does go south, and if they don't get the resort that they needed, and they play that negative brand of style and don't really make the improvement like they did last season, then I wouldn't be surprised if Nico Estevez could find himself in hot water sooner than what people think he would. Then we look at Charlotte FC with Dean Smith. Yeah, Dean Smith is safe. And this is despite the fact that I know some might say, well, is Dean Smith's job in trouble if this team have another first round exit? I don't think so. I think he has been by far the most successful head coach for Charlotte FC, even though I know that's not saying much because he's only the third head coach of the Charlotte FC side, but he's done a really good job with this team. He has definitely forged a bit of an identity with this team, and yeah, he should definitely be safe at least not only till the end of the year, but pretty border in terms. So it's going to be there at least for another two or three season. And then we look at Greg Berhalter. Same thing. I think he's safe. Greg Berhalter is definitely safe. I mean, when you are the head coach that is the architect in terms of finally ending the drought that this team has had in the playoff curse Chicago has all this year. You deserve at least another 2 or 3 years of the job, and that's kind of the whole reason why they brought in Greg Berhalter, hoping that not only it finally ended the drought, but also make them a very entertaining team to watch, and that's exactly what Berhalter has done. This team has been a very fun team to watch, even though I know there's some problem on the defensive end. As long as they keep scoring in goals and getting some wins that they need to do so, I have no doubt that the Fire are looking to do something that they have not done in a very long time, almost a decade and a half. That the Chicago Fire is since them going back to back season with playoff appearance. Not since when they of course had that sixth straight year of playoff appearance that ended in 2009. That they have made the playoff appearance regularly in back to back years. Then we look at Pat Nolan. I think Pat Nolan, he's going to be safe. One thing I will say about Pat Nolan is the fact that, obviously when you look at this Cincinnati team, I do think that they still have a couple of years in terms of their contending window, but as I mentioned before, with this Cincinnati team, it feels like they're kind of like in the Union timeline of 2021, that is. They're a team that definitely is very good when it comes to the regular season, but it's just about getting over the hump in the postseason, and that's, I think, is kind of the measuring stick for this team, and that we kind of saw that as things kind of got stale, and eventually, the core and core was just not working. The Union kind of stick with that until they realize that, yeah, that isn't going to be the case, and not only we're getting rid of the current core, but we're going to also get rid of our head coach as well. I wonder if that's going to be the same situation with Pat Nolan as well. Not saying that he's going to be fired this year. I mean, it would be crazy to see that he's going to be fired this year, even if this team once again fail in the playoffs. But it gets to a point where there's you can be so successful in the regular season every single year, but it doesn't really matter uh, when you're not producing in the postseason. And we've seen before where teams have had their problems in terms of it. And as I said, there's a reason why I compare Cincinnati kind of like the Union of the old, because it's not just the coaching staff that is coming from that organization, but it feels like it's the same kind of timeline that we're seeing with this team. Then we look at Colorado Rapids with Ryan Mason. This one, I'm gonna put this a little bit higher than what some people might say. Some people might put them right here. I mean, anytime when you have a new head coach, they usually belong in this category where they are gonna give time. Although it depends on where, of course, you step in terms of the team that you are. And in the case of the Colorado Rapids, a team that it's a big mystery in terms of whether or not they have enough to compete. Especially, I have a lot of question when it comes to their defense heading into this season. But yeah, I'm kind of putting them putting Ryan Mason a low high, mainly because if it actually ends up to be an absolute disaster class as well. It is pretty clear that the Rapids are trying to copy the same formula that Minnesota did with Eric Ramsey, hiring a head coach from England, coming from the Premier League, and hope that it will spark the team immediately. And we'll see whether or not that might be the case with Ryan Mason as well. I mean, to this day, I still don't know exactly what kind of game model and style that he's going to use, and whether the style and the game model he used will be effective for this Colorado Rapids side. Then we look at the Columbus Crew with Henrik Rydstrom. You know what? I'm actually going to put Henrik Rydstrom pretty high. I know, again, this is usually with a new head coach, you might give him a little bit leeway, but considering the fact that you're replacing a guy that is not only a fan favorite, but a guy that is considered one of the most successful head coach in Columbus Crew history in Wilfred Nancy and the Nancy ball system that is being used. It's not an easy shoe to fill for Henrik Rydstrom, and the fan base will definitely hope that he can get results straight away, because if things doesn't go right for the Columbus Crew, especially the fact that when you look at this team, they still have a lot of talented player on this team. This team can still easily be a MLS Cup contender in my opinion. But if Henrik Rydstrom get it wrong immediately, and that this team quickly turn south, I wouldn't be surprised if the Columbus Crew front office will react relatively quickly. Because again, for a team this talented like this, if you're a new head coach coming in and you mess things up, then yeah, you're gonna definitely see the axe basically. I mean, speaking of Wilfred Nancy, I think you can kind of say that was a great example of the fact that Wilfred Nancy, of course, finally got his move of going back to Europe and taking a big job in terms of taking charge of Celtic as well. And look how that, of course, went up with. This could be maybe the same case with Rydstrom as well. Although I wouldn't say that even if Rydstrom will have the similar situation that Nancy had with Celtic, I don't think Columbus is going to fire him that quickly into the season. But I also wouldn't be so surprised if this team, let's say, just completely disappoint and miss out on the playoffs. Yeah, you got to say Rydstrom probably will get fired from this team. Then we look at DC United with Renee Weller. I'm gonna put him pretty high as well, mainly because there's just no stability right now with DC United when it comes to the coaching. I wouldn't be surprised he might be let go after another bad season. And unfortunately, anytime when you let get rid of your head coach after a bad season. Some might think that that might be necessary to do because you're bringing another head coach that maybe will get things better. But in the case of DC United, I mean, ever since Ben Olsen, who's been there for over a decade, and in many ways it was the right decision for them to finally let him go. It's been a nonstop coaching revolving door with this team. Like there's just been no stability whatsoever ever when it comes to the coaching. I mean, the only stability that they had was when Wayne Rooney was there for a bit, but even then that was not didn't last too long. So this is why last year when they decided to hire Renee Weller, I don't know if this is a move that not only is inspiring to this team and maybe get this team back on track, but the fact that it just feels like he it's another DI kind of hiring, and I wouldn't be surprised if things go south again for this DC team, which I think most likely it will, because when you look at the roster, even with the changes they made, I don't think this team is anywhere near to be a playoff contender whatsoever. Weller will probably get fired, and the cycle continues of the amount of coaching carousel that this team has to endure, and this is where again you got to ask also the front office of this team, like when you are firing and hiring so many head coach and not having a lot of success, I don't think the head coach is the real problem with the team. I think it's probably the front office and the ownership that is the problem. And in the case of DC, I mean that's kind of how it's been at least this year and also pretty much the last 5 years and even a decade now. Then we look at Peter Quill. Yeah, Peter Quill should be safe. I think he's done a great job with FC Dallas. I mean, what's kind of interesting about Peter Quill is that will he decided to maybe make this team a little bit more expansive on the attacking end. It's pretty clear that last season doing that great unbeaten run that they had to finish off the season, that great late charge to get themselves in the playoffs, he didn't really decided to open up as much as we usually see him do. I mean, he's tend to be a very attacking kind of mindset head coach, and in some way he kind of did that in the beginning of the season, and it didn't quite work out. I wonder will he go back to it. I think he probably won't go back to it, just mainly because of the fact that they still haven't really got that DP10 that he would love to really control the attack. But there's no doubt that he's done a great job with FC Dallas, especially the recovery that they had last season. I think he's definitely going to be safe till the end of the year and probably be safe for these next year or two if he can get this Dallas team to finally not only compete for the playoffs but also go deep for once. It's been a long time since FC Dallas has made a deep run in the playoffs. Then we look at Ben Olsen with the Houston Dynamo. Yeah, I think Ben Olsen is kind of right up here. He's definitely in the hot seat level, considering that it's kind of surprising that he lasted this whole off season, and especially with all these head coach come and win. A lot of people are kind of surprised that the Dynamo kept Ben Olsen. Consider things are started kind of getting a little bit stale with Ben Olsen, and that's kind of the thing we saw in DC as well, where maybe things could be good at least in the beginning, and then it can quickly fall apart. And for Houston. I know that the reason why they probably give Ben Olsen a better shot is that now this is a more talented roster, at least on the attacking end, that is, and maybe that will be a way for him to work in terms of getting that team back to playoff contention. Because if that's not going to be the case, if he's going to bring that boring style of plays that we have seen with previous Ben Olsen team has, especially during his time with DC, yeah, Dynamo fans not only will be very upset about that, but there's already a lot of Dynamo fans have not been happy in terms of how Ben Olsen has done in terms of coaching, at least with this previous season, and I expect that he will definitely continue to have the seat hot this upcoming season, especially with the talent that they upgraded on the attacking end and kind of putting the same result as they did last season of missing out on the playoffs. Then we look at Sporting KC with Raphael Wiki. Yeah, I think Raphael Wiki should be safe at least till the end of the year. Again, the thing about this Sporting KC side is that it's clear that they're in a deep rebuild. It's year one of this deep rebuild that they're going through. There's not going to be a lot of expectation for this team. Hell, if this team is able to avoid themselves of winning the wooden spoon or even put up a respectable season and maybe just maybe are in the outside shot of competing for the playoffs, I think it's considered a successful year. I mean, this team, it's going to take a while for them to get themselves back to competitiveness. Hiring Raphael Wiki, that's kind of an interesting hire considering, he was there when he was in charge of the Chicago Fire in terms of their complete transition that they gone through with the new ownership and also the bold envision of getting themselves back to competitiveness, and it did not work whatsoever. So we'll see whether or not if that might work with Wiki now with Sporting KC and but at least for this season, I don't think he's going to be gone, especially with the thing that he has to work with. It would be kind of dumb for Sporting KC to say, well, if it's going to be a season that's going to be disappointing, I mean, fire Raphael Wiki isn't really going to fix too much because if you fired him, what is the point of you hiring him in the first place in terms of enduring this deep rebuild that they're clearly going through. Then we look at Greg Vanny. Again, for Greg Vanny, I think he should be safe till the end of the year. Yes, I know last season with Greg Vanny, there was a lot of Galaxy fans were calling for his heads, especially doing that 17 game winless run to start the season. And they kind of doubled down by giving him a contract extension, which sounds like a crazy thing to say, but if you just don't look at that 17 winless run, which is hard to ignore, but if you look at the rest of the season, this team was actually pretty respectful, and this is where I'm gonna say it again, probably in my prediction video. Even with the loss of Ricky Pooch this season, I do think that the Galaxy not only is going to be better than they were last season, but this team definitely could still be a playoff team as well. They have enough talent, even without Ricky Pooch on the attack, that I think could still be pretty good. The defense also has been an upgrade as well, and in general, last season it was just kind of so unfortunate in terms of the 17 game winless run to start the season. That absolutely destroyed their season. No doubt. I think the second half of last season was more of a telling story of what the Galaxy could be heading in this season than what we might see in terms of the 17 game winless run that they had. Then we look at LAFC with Mark Dos Santos. You know what? I'm gonna put Mark Dos Santos in the hot seat category. So again, the reason why I put him there is that again he wasn't really a popular hire when LAFC of course got them, and I also are well aware the fact that in his first game in charge of LAFC, it was absolutely amazing for him. He saw his team won 6-1 in that game. I mean, it was a dream debut for him with LAFC. But you got to remember, one, that was against Real España. That is, as we kind of saw tonight when LAFC played against Real España. Real España was not a great team whatsoever. I think the true test is when they do come back to MLS and see whether or not if they can do that, and especially with the way that, at least from what I've seen from tonight, my big concern with Marc Dos Santos is that he's gonna really just kind of messed up the system that was really successful under Carindolo, that counter attacking style, and kind of put in his style that probably won't work as well as what Churindo left. The fact that he kind of decided to kind of run the same system that Churindo has, it maybe that kind of relieve him a little bit off of the hot seat as well. Again, if this team is going to have a successful season of them finishing probably in the top three and maybe going on a deep playoff run, then I think Morton Santos will be safe. But if that's not going to be the case, I wouldn't be surprised he might be ousted, especially if they get off to a slow start like this, or a slow start like they did last season as well. A lot of LAFC fans is going to question Mark Dos Santos, especially with the talent that they have. This team with all the talent that they have should not be off to as a bad of a start they had last season as well. Then we look at Javier Mascherano. You know what? I know this might sound crazy to put Javier Mascherano still in the hot seat category, But honestly, when you coach Inter Miami and when you're basically coaching by far the most talented team in the league and have unlimited resources like they did, you expect to win all the time. I mean, this team it's all about winning, and if they don't win trophy, it's going to consider to be an absolute failure. And we kind of saw it last season as well, where Javier Mascherano was under a lot of heat last season, at least in the beginning of the year when they were struggling. And I will give him credit the fact that he did definitely make some adjustment to his style and also his tactics to kind of get the best out of the team, which is something I definitely didn't think was going to happen back in May. I mean, when they had that bad run of form, I think everybody was counting the days before Mascherano was going to get removed as the head coach of this team. But even then, with an MLS Cup that he has, and with the way that he did a good job in terms of changing the style that got the best out of the team. This doesn't mean the fact that he's anywhere where safe as well. I mean, normally we talk about a head coach after winning an MLS Cup. I would usually put them right here because you get that honeymoon period the very next year where you're not gonna have the heat from potentially getting fired from the front office after you just won a title with the team the previous year. But unfortunately, Inter Miami is not that kind of team. They're a special case where the 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 expectation of this team is not only just sky high, but it's not even close in terms of any team's expectation. The pressure of this team winning, especially trying to win as much before Messi eventually does call it quit is definitely high. And if they don't deliver that, especially if Miami have a point where they struggle and unable to recover, and also not winning those trophies that they've been wanted to do so besides MLS Cup, I wouldn't be surprised if Marciano will be under the heat again. It feels like right now when you're the head coach of Inter Miami, it's almost like you're basically the head coach of Real Madrid. And I know that sounds like a crazy comparison, but it's not that far off. I mean, with Real Madrid, you always are expected to win every single time, and in the case of Miami, especially with them being by far the best team in the league compared to most team in MLS, yeah, it is expected that this team needs to do well. Otherwise, Marciano could once again find himself in trouble with his job, like he did in the beginning of last season as well. And then next up, we got Minnesota with Cam Nose. Yeah, Cam Nose is going to be right here. He's definitely going to be given time as well, mainly because of the way that heading into this season, it is a bit of a transitional year for this Minnesota United team. I don't expect this team is going to be as good as what we saw last season as well. Even though I know ideally I would want to see that, and I would love to see this team compete for trophies again, and they could definitely do so depending on if James Rodriguez will be up for it. Not just but before the World Cup, but maybe even after as well. But because of all the changes that this team has and all the big pieces that they lost, again, when you go for a transitional period like that, I know it's easy for Loons fans to have those high expectation again, but sometimes you kind of have to lower the expectation a little bit, and the fact that it's almost like you're heading into a new era and kind of almost going for a little bit of a retool period where you don't want to put too much expectation and say that the team can easily get themselves back to where they were when there's no guarantee that might be the case. So because of that, I think Cam Nolan should be safe at least through the end of the year. Even if this team might be hovering above the red line, there's no doubt that I think with the system that Cam Nolan of course run, I expect the fact that this team is going to get off to a slow start, especially with look at how the schedule is to begin the season. Just a brutal start to the season. I think I would be shocked if any Loons fans would want to call on the heads of Cam Nolan if they do go on a bad run of form, because at the end of the day, you got to trust the process. You got to trust what Cam Nolan can does and what he can do in terms of changing the style. I think it could be something special and something that players kind of want to play under, because as much as I know last season Eric Ramsey, the style that he put on this team might sound like it was successful because they were winning games. In reality, I don't think players were really happy in terms of just have to keep defending every single time. That's not going to be the case with Cam Nolan, and that's kind of something that players will be a little bit more happy playing under him, especially with the players gaining the trust that Nolan can definitely do some good thing with this Minnesota team. Then we look at Marco Donadell. I think it could definitely go either way. Really, because the thing about Montreal is that just like I said about other team that's kind of go through a rebuild. You always want to give the head coach a little benefit of the doubt, at least in the first year, that maybe things might not go so well, but at least if you show progress, then you of course will be rewarded another year. Well, the thing is that while I think maybe the Sporting KC front office might be a little bit patient with Raphael Wiki, I don't know about the Montreal front office. Montreal is another one of those teams that are very trigger happy when it comes to hiring and firing their head coach. They have a lot of coaching carousel. So not just the last couple of years, but really ever since this team came into MLS, there's always some coaching instability with this team, and that there's no head coach that really lasts more than like 4 or 5 seasons with the Montreal side. So now with the latest uh rebuild build that they're going through, and with them getting Marco Donadell as the permanent head coach, and maybe they hope that he's gonna be the guy guides them in this rebuild. Again, if it's successful, then I think he'll earn another year. But if it doesn't, I wouldn't be surprised if Montreal will be trigger happy again in terms of the fact that, yeah, Donadell is clearly not the man, and we're just gonna fire him, and we'll just ignore the fact that we promoted him this year, even though there are some Montreal fans are a little bit skeptical. He's the right man in terms of leading this deep rebuild they're going through. And then with BJ Callahan, I mean, this one is pretty easy. It's gonna be right here. I don't even need to explain why BJ Callahan is safe. In fact, there are some that are just so obvious. I don't really need too much explaining to do. I mean, there's something special that Nashville is definitely building right now, and I've said this before. I think this is definitely gonna be a team in the East. Out of all the team in the East that is gonna challenge the evil empire known as Inter Miami, Nashville probably might be the closest one to do so, just because of the talent that they currently have up and down off the pitch. Then we look at New England with Marko Mitrovic. Yeah, I think he's going to be safe as well. Again, same reason I said about some of the rebuild that is going on right now. I think it is pretty clear that he is definitely going to be. Oh, you know what? I just realized I put two RW. So let me just put Raphael Wiki last name so you guys don't confuse which coach has an RW initial there. But anyway, going back to Marko Mitrovic, I think he'll definitely be safe. I think New England will give him time. I mean, they give Caleb Porter such a long leash. The fact that yeah, it's pretty clear that Porter probably should have been fired a year or even two ago. So I expect that if they give that much leash to Caleb Porter, they'll probably give even a longer leash for Mitrovic, especially the vision that he has with this team and trying to get the best out of this team, which is something that Caleb Porter clearly did not do when he was in charge of this New England Revolution side. Then we look at Michael Bradley. Yeah, I'm gonna say Michael Bradley will also be right here. Where again, I know Red Bulls fan will have that expectation of getting themselves back to playoff contention, but let's be honest. When you look at this Red Bulls team and all the gutting that they've been doing, especially on the defensive front, I do think that this team is going to be in for another rough season, and I do think that it is clear that with the hiring of Michael Bradley, maybe this is a sign of them doing a different approach, and maybe trying to built a team within one of their club legend, and in terms of his vision in terms of trying to get this Red Bulls team to glory. Don't get me wrong, I love Michael Bradley, and I am definitely rooting for him to be successful in terms of coaching with the Red Bulls. But it'll be very interesting to see how he's going to do in his first year, especially with the way that he's not working with a very talented roster as well, a roster that is clearly very incomplete, especially on the defensive end. Part of that is also kind of the front office fault, because the Red Bulls have been very stubborn when it comes to some of the signings that they've done in past. I mean, they still do believe in the academy, but there's that, but also just them being kind of a little bit stubborn in terms of replacing some of these players, and that kind of put Michael Bradley in a bit of a sticky situation. But there's no doubt that I do think, because of him being kind of a club legend with the Red Bulls, and it seems like he has a very good relationship with the front office, and also the fans like him as well. He's not only going to get a longer leash, but if this is going to be a disastrous season for the Red Bulls, I'm not going to entirely blame on Michael Bradley, especially with the roster that he is giving. It's a bit of a rough one. At least not on the attack end. The attack end is actually pretty good. But I'm just worried about everything else with this roster that it's going to be tough for him to build this team back to be a playoff contention. Then we look at Pascal Janssen for NYCFC. Yeah, I think Pascal Janssen's going to be here. And again, for Pascal Janssen, it's not really something that need to explain too much about, despite the fact that I know he definitely did well last season, guiding that team to the Eastern Conference final. I think you could gotta say that he is still right up there in terms of near the top of the hot seat index, mainly because NYCFC is another team that is not known to have their head coach last very long. I mean, there's always expectation with this team, and there's always a lot of pressure in terms of performing well with this team. And if you don't perform well, then yeah, NYCFC will not be afraid to basically fire their head coach. And that's kind of the case with Pascal Janssen. He needs to continue to get this team to be a competitive team, especially trying to get themselves back to the Eastern Conference final like they did last year. Otherwise, if that's not the case, wouldn't be surprised if City Football Group immediately say, yeah, let's just get rid of this guy and find another one that can basically do so, because we have the resources to find another head coach that we think will be the guy to once again lead us to another MLS Cup, just like what we saw back in 2021. Then we look at Oscar Pereira. Yeah, Oscar Pereira is definitely in the hot seat. So I've said this before in my season preview about Orlando City, the fact that I would not be surprised if this is going to be Oscar Pereira's last season, and I also wouldn't be surprised he might be let go of this team in the middle of the season as well. Mainly because I think with how things have gone for Orlando City with Oscar Pereira, of how things have gone really stale with this team, and especially I've even said this before, if this team get off to another bad start to the season like they've done in the past, I think Oscar Pereira is gone with this team. I mean, what we saw last season, especially in the second half of the season, even with the talented roster that he has, the fact that he not only did not get the best out of that team, but just pretty much capitulated like they did in the second half of last year, and if that kind of continues into this year as well, yeah, I expect there's got to be changes that is going to be. And I even said before, when it comes to head coach in this league, there's a reason why we have a lot of head coaching turnover recently, because front office and teams have been and very impatient, and probably more impatient than ever before when it comes to finding the right guys, and make sure that if the resort doesn't come in, they won't be afraid in terms of moving on to another their player. And in the case of some head coaches that's been there for a while, it is very rare that we see that happen nowadays, because things can eventually get stale. And I think that's kind of the case right now with Oscar Pereira, where his messages are kind of getting a bit stale. That the players maybe are not motivated as much as it used to be when he took charge of this team. And that I even said many times before, I feel like I'm comparing Oscar Pereira tenure now with Orlando City, similar to his last year with FC Dallas, where things got so stale with this team that Dallas had no choice. They had to get rid of him and bring in a new voice, hope to get themselves back to the glory. And I think that might be the same thing that Orlando City might be doing as soon as this season as well. Then we look at Bradley Carnell with the Philadelphia Union. Yeah, Bradley Carnell is definitely safe. I would be shocked if the Union will give Bradley Carnell a similar treatment that St. Louis give him, which is they decided to fire him, despite the fact that he had a great season in the expansion season. There's no doubt that with the Union, I do expect this team maybe won't be as good as what we saw last season, because they are still going through a transitional period. But one thing I will say that is different is that the Union has always been patient when it comes to head coach. I mean, Jim Curran has lasted for so long there, despite some up and down years that sometimes Jim Curran has had. But in the case of Bradley Carnell, especially with the way that he kind of learned last season, last season we didn't see that kind of second half have I wouldn't say collapse, but just kind of that writings on the wall that we saw during his expansion season with St. Louis, where you kind of saw the little writings on the wall that the cracks were in the foundation. The Union was still a really good team as we get for the second half of the season, and I think that might be the same case again this year, where he kind of learned in the system the fact that he one thing that he did with the Union that was kind of fascinating for himself, is that he didn't really press as much as what we saw in his previous time with St. Louis and the Red Bulls. I mean, he comes from the energy drink soccer kind of style of play. And I guess last season he didn't really quite do as much of that. Is maybe he learned that that kind of style might not actually worked out throughout the entire season, and because of that, I think that's kind of the reason why we didn't see the crack in the foundation that he had with the Union and them still performing well in the second half of the season, unlike what we saw with St. Louis City. Then we look at the Portland Timbers with Phil Neville. Yep, Phil Neville was definitely right up here. I don't really need to explain why Phil Neville is in the hot seat. I think a lot of Timbers fans are getting tired of Phil Neville, especially with them not showing any progress whatsoever and just stuck in mediocrity in the last couple of years as well. And that, yeah, again, if this team once again have a mediocre season, heck, if this team once again get ousted in the first round or even in the playing round, or even if they don't make it to the playoffs, I wouldn't be surprised if Phil Neville is going to be fired, because why would you want to keep a guy that is once again still putting you in this very frustrating situation that Timbers fans has to deal with in the past 4 or 5 seasons, which is they're just stuck in this 40 point range. They don't have enough to get themselves back to MLS Cup contender like they did all those years under Giovanni Savarese, and that I even said many times before, and I think Timbers fans kind of know it too. The hiring of Phil Neville was a huge mistake. I mean that it didn't look great in the beginning. It was kind of a little bit head scratching in the beginning, and it feels like it kind of continue nowadays where you know what Phil Neville team will bring. Phil Neville team will always bring mediocrity, and Phil Neville team will always sometimes will bring some good vibes to the team in part of the season. But then he can also make sure that the team just completely fall apart in the stretch. There's just no consistency whatsoever when you see a Phil Neville let side, both doing his time with Inter Miami and now what we see in the last couple of years with the Portland Timbers. And then we look at Pablo Mastroeni. You know what? I'm gonna put Pablo Mastroeni a little high on this list, mainly because I know he's been there for a while now, and I'm kind of surprised the fact that he's not getting as much heat, considering this RSL side, just like the Timbers, are kind of stuck in mediocrity and also getting ousted in the first round a lot. I feel like Pablo Mastroeni is still living up to what he did during his intern basis, is the reason why he is kind of still well respected with this team, because I don't really see anything special that he's done with this team in the last couple of years. It just feels like they're just kind of stuck in mediocrity and not able to get it over the hump to get it in the first round. And especially with them kind of creating a new team, and hope that maybe this might be in the way to finally get them over the hump. Again, I just wonder that I feel like for Pablo Mastroeni, his leash is not going to be as long as some people might think he does, and especially if this team has another down season like they kind of did in last season as well, and also before that incredible season where they finished third, but they got knocked out by Minnesota in the first round. Wouldn't be surprised if Pablo Mastroeni might be let go for this team. And then we look at Mikey Veras with San Diego. I don't need to explain too much about Mikey Veras. He's definitely safe. I mean, he has done so much great things for San Diego. He's pretty much a miracle worker with that team, and getting pretty much the best out of that team and then some. No way in the world he's going to be anywhere close to being in the hot seat. He should be safe at least for these next couple of years. Now with Bruce Arena, with the San Jose Earthquakes, I'm gonna put him kind of right up here as well, pretty high. Mainly because it could definitely go either way. The fact that it's kind of the same explanation I'll say about DC United. The fact that I expect the Quakes to be bad this season because of them just decided to treat this off season like it's a vacation time and not really doing anything to change and stuff like that. And if Bruce Arena, as much as I know he's done some great work with previous teams as well, again the Quakes have always have a history where it doesn't matter what kind of head coach you bring in, it just doesn't stand out whatsoever. And Bruce Arena's got his work cut out, especially for this upcoming season of working of a squad that is pretty much almost a skeleton squad, and a squad that has so much liability, especially on the defensive end. If he somehow gets the best out of this team and get that team to the playoffs, I think you would maybe even argue he should deserve to be coach of the year, and pray that he can stay with this team for another season or two, because he's basically working miracles to trying to get the team be competitive. When in reality, in all signs, it's pointing that this team could be a wooden spoon team heading into the season as well. And also, if they do win the wooden spoon, wouldn't be surprised if the front office will say, "Yeah, we're tired of Bruce Arena." Now, this is another team that unfortunately has a lot of instability when it comes to coaching. We haven't had a head coach that's been with this team for more than three seasons than what we see with Almeida. And yeah, like I always say, when you fire and hire head coach left, right, and center, I don't think it's the coaching that is a huge issue. I think it's clearly something wrong with the front office and the ownership group. And in the case of the San Jose Earthquakes, just like DC United, it's pretty clear that it's the front office and the ownership reason why this team has been so bad for these past decade or two. Then we look at Brian Schmetzer with the Seattle Sounders. Yeah, Brian Schmetzer is right here. Don't really need to explain. I might as well just kind of copy and paste what I've been saying the last couple of years of why Brian Schmetzer is safe. I think he's the only head coach I can really rarely say that even though he's been there for so long, to a point where he's now the longest active head coach that's been with the same team after Peter Remise, of course, let go. But the difference between Brian Schmetzer compared to what we've seen with Peter Remise and Ben Olsen is the fact that they're still winning games. As long as you're still winning games and as long as your message is still deliver and the team doesn't get stale whatsoever, there you can definitely have a long career uh with a team. And for Brian Schmidt, so that's one of the outlier liar as well. And he's done an incredible job with the Sounders, and I think he's going to continue to do so in these upcoming years. Then we look at St. Louis with Yohan Dame. Yeah, I'm gonna put him right here. Again, same reason I explained with Marko Mitrovic and Rafael Wiki. Yohan Dame is gonna definitely get time with St. Louis, especially with them kind of going for a little bit of a rebuilding project themselves as well. I mean, if he can definitely get this team back to competitiveness, there's no doubt that he's gonna be in this category. And even if this team just once again stagnate just like they did last season, I don't think Yohan Dame is going to get fired, especially if the style that he plays is going to be entertaining. I think St. Louis fans won't mind him sticking around as well. So yeah, I'm gonna put him. He should be at least safe till the end of this year. Then we look at Robin Fraser. I'm gonna put Robin Fraser a little high. Although, if you're a Toronto FC fan, I don't think this is a big surprise. Where he could definitely get hot when things go south, because when it comes to head coaching stability, yeah, Toronto FC haven't really kind of had that, at least in the last couple of years. Like not since Vanny left this team. This team has kind of had a little bit instability when it comes to the head coaching spot. And the thing about Toronto FC, they've been in this rebuild for a while now, and I can understand why TFC fans are kind of getting frustrated in terms of this rebuild taking too long to do so. And then if they do have a disastrous year with the front office, just kind of not openly admit the fact that they messed up again and just use Robin Fraser as a scapegoat. I feel like that's kind of the reason why I put him pretty high. I feel like Robin Fraser is probably going to use it as a scapegoat, and this is why the TFC job is kind of not very attractive right now, because you're going to be being only committing to a rebuild. But if the rebuild doesn't go wrong, the front office will immediately use you as a scapegoat to kind of detract the fact that, yeah, we're kind of the real reason why we're screwing up this deep rebuild, and not really making the necessary signing to trying to continue to improve the team, and trying to fast for the rebuild of trying to get themselves back to contention as soon as possible. And then last but not least, Jasper Sorensen. Don't need too much explain about Jasper Sorensen. He's not only in the safe, but Vancouver fans are praying that he can be their head coach until the until whenever this team potentially might face the ultimate things that I really hope that won't happen with the Vancouver Whitecaps. And then of course it's them relocating somewhere else. I mean, I know those relocation talk are still there, and Vancouver fans kind of don't want to talk about it. But hopefully eventually they'll get things sorted out, at least off the pitch, when it comes to keeping the team in Vancouver as well. But for now, on the field, what a job Jasper Sorensen has done, and I think he's going to continue to do so heading into the season, especially of the way that this team heading into this year, even though they're kind of running it back a little bit heading into this season, they're kind of one of those rare teams that can afford to do that because they've just got such a loaded roster from top to bottom where they really don't need to make too much changes to get themselves competitive again. I mean, why would you want to change the roster when that roster last season got them the best season they've ever had in franchise history and got them their first ever MLS Cup as well. Well, there we have it. That is pretty much it. Looking at the hot seat index, as always, let me know in the comments below what do you think of this video. And as always, let me know in the comments below if I put maybe some head coach a little too high on the hot seat index or a little too low. Until then, hope you guys enjoyed this video, and I will see you guys next time.